In the enveloping darkness of Iman's field village, a fierce storm suddenly broke out. It brought with it the screams of terror and the silhouettes of terrifying monsters, Trollocs, the brutal army of the Dark One. The scene of chaos unfolded as houses were set ablaze, villagers fled in panic, and hope seemed to crumble. In that moment of despair, Moirin, a powerful Aes Sedai, stepped into the middle of the battlefield with the brilliant light of the One Power surrounded her. Her magic drew waves of fire, raging winds, and a series of defeated enemies. Time returned to 3,000 years ago, when the Dark Lord had invaded the earth. However, the male Aes Sedai, who had the ability to use natural power, arrogantly believed that they could conquer the darkness on their own. They directly joined Dragon, who possessed supreme power, to attack him, but in the end, they failed miserably. After that incident, the Dark Lord cursed the source of natural power. Only women could use it. If men used the power, they would go mad and become his minions. Therefore, the female Aes Sedai had to take on the mission of destroying the Dark Lord. They always remembered the prophecy that said, in the future, Dragon will be reborn. Only he can stand against the Dark Lord. 20 years ago, the prophecy came true. Dragon was reborn. However, no one knew anything about him. Therefore, a female Aes Sedai named Moirin, along with her retainer, was given the important task of finding Dragon before the minions of darkness. At this time, two men were being pursued by the Red Ajas of the Aes Sedai group, because they had used the power of oneness. When the two reached the mountain, thinking that they had escaped, a Red Aja used the power of oneness to make rocks fall down, blocking their path. Seeing this, he immediately begged her to spare his friend, but in reality, that friend did not exist. That person was just an illusion created by the darkness to control him. Afterwards, the Red Aja destroyed this person before he became a servant of the darkness. Witnessing this scene, Moirin knew that he was not the reincarnated dragon, so she continued to move to the Aranel River, where there were 5 people of the right age according to the prophecy. At the same time, there was a girl named Egwene, who was having her coming-of-age ceremony. When she was just 20 years old, Egwene was encouraged by a wise woman of the village, Nynaeve. She would have to cross this river to complete the challenge. Then, Nynaeve pushed Egwene down directly. At first, she was not used to it and kept struggling. After a while of controlling her breathing, Egwene completely merged with the river. In the village, Rand, a 20-year-old boy, was delivering rice to the inn with his father. Here he met his 2 close friends, Mad and Perrin. At this time, Egwene also returned. Everyone was happy that she had passed the challenge. Therefore, the whole village began to celebrate. Rand was extremely excited to see Egwene again, because they were lovers. But at this moment, someone walked in. It turned out to be Moirin and her retainer. This made the whole village very worried when an Aes Sedai appeared in this peaceful village, because if she waved her hand, the whole place would be destroyed. Nynaeve was a wise woman of the village, so she was very wary of them. However, Moirin only came here to rent a room. While waiting for the accommodation, Moirin also took the opportunity to pay attention to people in their 20s, because they met the condition of the prophecy. When Moirin went to the room, everyone dispersed, leaving only Rand and Egwene. The 2 of them were reluctant to part. Egwene said that Nynaeve wanted to train her to become the next wise woman of the village. Hearing this, Rand immediately stopped her, because becoming a wise woman meant living a celibate life. That meant their relationship would end. After that, Rand angrily left. At this time, a minion of the Dark Lord appeared in front of the village. The next morning, Nynaeve directly trained Egwene's strength, but suddenly they heard a very scary sound in the wind. On this side, the retainer went into the forest to check. He discovered an extremely creepy scene. In the evening, the whole village happily released flower lanterns into the river. This was an annual activity of the villagers, to pray for the souls, hoping that they could follow the wheel of time back to the present world. Moirin did not neglect her duty. She stood to the side and continuously observed everyone. Afterwards, everyone in the village danced together to celebrate. While Egwene was having fun, suddenly someone collapsed. He was struck by the axe embedded in his body. Then a series of monsters rushed to attack the villagers, causing them to panic. They could only run away in vain. On the other side, when Rand and his father were in the house, the monster suddenly broke the door and rushed in. Although the 2 tried to fight back, because of its overwhelming power, they were quickly overwhelmed. In the critical moment, Rand's father took out a sword with the symbol of a crane, which he hid under the bed, to fight. But with the monster's power, his sword slashes did not cause any damage. In the end, he was controlled by it. Taking the opportunity, Rand destroyed the monster. However, during the fight, his father was unfortunately injured. In another development, Perrin and his fiancée were attacked by monsters. The 2 of them kept trying to fight back. At this time, Perrin seemed to awaken the mysterious power within him, causing him to go crazy and attack the monster. After killing one, Perrin mistook his wife for a monster and threw an axe at her. This made him extremely miserable, as he had killed his wife by mistake. On this side, Egwene and Nynaeve were rescuing the wounded when a monster rushed towards them. While they thought there was no way to escape, suddenly a force destroyed the monster. It turned out that Moirin and her retainer had arrived. She easily destroyed each monster. The retainer beside her were responsible for supporting the surrounding area. Meanwhile, Moirin would use her power to control the natural elements, summoning the elements of earth, lightning, and fire to sweep away the monsters. On the other hand, the villagers took up their weapons and rose up together. Suddenly, while not paying attention, Nenave was dragged away by a monster. The number of monsters increased, making Moirin unable to keep up. She was beaten and seriously injured. However, Moirin still tried to hold back the pain. She stood up and used all her energy to move large rocks to suppress the monsters. By the time all the monsters were destroyed, Moirin was exhausted. After the battle ended, the villagers began to clean up and rescue the injured. The peaceful village had now become a ruin. Rand also brought his father to be treated. He was very happy to be reunited with Egwene. Although seriously injured, Moirin still tried her best to treat Rand's father. Very quickly, he recovered to normal. Because she was an Aes Sedai, Moirin could not heal herself. She had to wait until another Aes Sedai appeared. After that, everyone suspected that Moirin had led the monsters here. With no other choice, she could only say that her purpose here was to find the reincarnated lineage. And that person could be Egwene, Rand, Mad, Nynaeve, or Perrin. They were the reason why the monsters came. At this moment, a group of monsters from the Dark Lord, about 300 of them, was approaching. However, because Moirin had not yet determined who the dragon was, Moirin had to ask the 4 of them to go to the White Tower with her. That was the origin of the Aes Sedai. Although they did not believe what Moirin said, in order to ensure the safety of the villagers, the 4 of them had to follow Moirin and leave. After a whole day of riding, the monsters still did not stop following them. Right now, the only way to escape them was through deep water, so they hired an old man's boat to cross the river. Luckily, the group successfully reached the other side. At this time, the dark minions also led the monsters to the place. However, because he was worried about his family, the old boatman insisted on going back. Moirin had no choice but to use her power to sink the boat. That would help stop the monsters. However, the old man was still stubborn and jumped in, so both the boat and the old man were sunk. Although they were very dissatisfied with Moirin's actions, this was the only way to stop the monsters. After that, they immediately left. After many days of continuous travel, the group finally got a little rest. During that time, Moirin called Egwene out to talk because she thought Dragon would most likely be a woman. However, Egwene did not care. She blamed Moirin for the boatman's death. Moirin explained that she did not want it to be like that. If the old man returned, he would be killed by the monsters. Then, they would use the ship to chase them, and one of the taboos of an Aes Sedai was not to lie. Hearing that, Egwene completely trusted Moirin. Moirin placed a necklace in Egwene's hand. Suddenly, the necklace flashed brightly. It showed that Egwene possessed terrible power. At this time, Perrin was still tormenting himself over the death of his fiancée. Although he had been seriously injured in the leg in the previous battle, he still hid it from everyone. On the other hand, Rand suddenly woke up. Then he suddenly pulled out a bat from his mouth. This made him extremely frightened. Suddenly, something from afar was staring at Rand. At this moment, he suddenly woke up. He thought it was a dream, but when he saw the bat on the ground, Rand believed it was true. Not only that, the other 3 people also experienced the same thing. Rand was angry and thought that Moirin was the one who did everything. However, at this time, Moirin also seemed very scared. She urged everyone to keep going their ways immediately. This made Rand even angrier because Moirin did not explain anything, and she just wanted them to go to the White Tower. Seeing this, Moirin also lost patience and left alone. However, the others still trusted Moirin because she had saved their lives. After a few words of persuasion from Mad, Rand finally had no choice but to continue on way. On this side, the White Knights were men dressed in white. They considered the Aes Sedai to be the source of disaster and darkness. Therefore, this group often hunted the Aes Sedai to destroy them. Not long after, the retainer reported the appearance of the White Knights. Hearing this, Moirin quickly hid the Aes Sedai ring and pretended to be passersby with everyone else. However, the group was extremely vigilant. In order to avoid suspicion, Moirin quickly distracted them with the wound on her shoulder and said that the monsters were nearby. After escaping from the White Knights, they stopped to rest because they had not seen any signs of the monsters for many days. While Perrin was by the stream, he was suddenly surrounded by a pack of wolves. They slowly advanced towards Perrin, but the strange thing was that they did not attack but licked his wound. It was as if to heal him. At night, everyone was worried when Moirin fell into a coma because her wound became more serious. While everyone was sleeping, Egwene suddenly woke up because she heard a strange sound. She was terrified to find that the monsters had arrived here. Egwene immediately woke everyone up. The monsters rushed forward. Because Moirin was in a coma, the retainer had to tell everyone to enter the ruined city. When they got closer, something seemed very scary, causing the horses to stop. The monsters also stopped chasing. Through a crack in the wall, the group entered the space that exuded darkness, without a single person. The retainer revealed that this place used to be a rich and powerful country. But while all the countries joined forces to fight the monsters, this place built a large wall without a gate to hide inside, leaving the other countries to fend for themselves. But when the war ended, the survivors came here, looking for food and shelter. However, when they discovered this place, everyone was shocked to see everything had become desolate. Witnessing this, everyone thought that a ferocious demon existed here. That was the reason why the monsters were afraid. The retainer reminded them not to touch anything and to only eat the food they brought. The next morning, Mad suddenly woke up. He felt like he was being called by something. So, Mad went around to observe. Finally, Mad found a chest. Inside was a golden knife. Ignoring the retainer's instructions, Mad touched the knife directly. At that moment, Moirin also woke up because she felt the danger. Outside, the horses suddenly panicked and kept screaming. From the ground, black shadows spread everywhere and immediately swallowed everything they passed. Then everyone was also surrounded by the black shadow. Seeing this, the group panicked and immediately split up to run away. The black shadow kept chasing them. Perrin and Egwene were quickly surrounded by it. With no other choice, the two of them could only jump into the river. Rand and Mad broke the iron bars to crawl through the sewer. At this time, Moirin was also taken into the forest by the retainer on horseback. Although the group was separated, fortunately no one died. When the retainer had just put Moirin down to rest, a sword was placed right at his neck. Unexpectedly, Nynaeve was still alive. It turned out that when she was dragged into the forest by the monster, it suddenly dropped Nynaeve to go towards another injured monster and directly ate its own kind. Seeing that, Nynaeve panicked and took the opportunity to run away. She jumped into the lake to hide. When the monster dived down to search, Nynaeve took the opportunity to destroy it from behind. Nynaeve questioned the retainer about the whereabouts of the remaining people. As a wise woman, Nynaeve had a responsibility to her villagers. The retainer wondered how Nynaeve could find them. While Nynaeve was thinking, the retainer took the sword from Nynaeve and knocked her out. The next morning, when Nynaeve woke up, the retainer asked her to save Moirin. Then he would reveal the location of the other 4 people. Hearing this, Nynaeve agreed. At the same time, the retainer also felt a lot of pain because there was a connection between him and Moirin. The two could feel everything from each other. That made it easier for them to coordinate while doing the task. On this side, Egwene and Perrin were so cold that they hid behind a tree to make a fire. Perrin tried to make a fire with rocks but failed. Seeing this, Egwene remembered Moirin's teachings. She used her oneness to make a fire. Because they were so tired, the two leaned on each other to rest. Perrin fell into a dream. He saw his wife being eaten by a wolf. Suddenly, the Dark Lord also appeared. Luckily, Perrin was woken up by Egwene and told that they had to leave because 7 wolves were approaching. The two quickly ran away, but after a while, the wolves suddenly stopped. There were horse-drawn carriage tracks in front of them. Egwene thought that the wolves had deliberately led them here. Following the trail, they came to a forest. Unexpectedly, the two were surrounded by a tribe. The leader was Aram and his mother. Very quickly, Egwene and Perrin were led back to their territory. At first, the two were still very worried. However, this tribe was very kind and hospitable. They even happily shared food with the two. On the other hand, Rand and Mad could not find anyone, so they decided to go to White Tower by themselves. After a long day of walking, the two found a small town nearby, so they went to a restaurant to ask for news. But they could not get any information. Because they were so hungry, they had to order 2 bowls of noodles. But because they had too little money, Rand and Mad had to work extra jobs here to have a place to sleep for the night. Rand's handsomeness attracted the attention of the landlady. She kept on seducing him. However, Rand only had one love in his heart for Egwene. Hearing that, the landlady angrily closed the door. It turned out that this woman had devoted her soul and body to being a minion of darkness. She had long known the identities of Rand and Mad. Rand tried to break the door, but the landlady smugly said that he could not do it. Surprisingly, after a few sniffs, Rand succeeded in breaking the door. He quickly ran out to look for Mad. They immediately ran away, but because the landlady was very familiar with the terrain here, the two were eventually stopped. In the critical situation, a man suddenly threw a knife and knocked her down. He was Tom. He seemed to know everything and announced that the minion of darkness was coming here. He advised Rand and Mad to quickly follow him. On the other hand, although she had been treated, it seemed that Moirain's condition was still not very good. Suddenly, the retainer sensed that other Aes Sedai were nearby, so he brought Moirain to them. There, the three met Liandrin and several other Red Ajah. Liandrin informed them that they were escorting a man who called himself Dragon. When Moirain saw this man, she was also frightened by his power. A few months ago, in a castle, the king and his soldiers were fighting a man who called himself Dragon. His real name was Logain. He used black and white oneness power to attack the soldiers. When Logain chased the king, the black shadows appeared and urged Logain to finish him off. However, Logain still kept his sanity and did not do it. He wanted the king to support him to become dragon to change the world, because the former dragon had lost to the Dark Lord before, and men were no longer allowed to use the power of oneness. At this moment, the other Aes Sedai were setting up camp to rest. Here, Moirain was also cured by a green Ajah named Kara. After that, the two people went to a cave where the other Aes Sedai were trying to use the power of unity to seal Logain. However, because his power was so terrible, 2 high-ranking Aes Sedai were needed to be on duty at all times. To capture him, they had to sneak in and seal him while he was sleeping. Hearing this, Moirain also understood Logain's power. Therefore, she joined forces with everyone to seal him. At this time, one of them suspected that he might be a real dragon, but Moirain affirmed that he was definitely not a dragon. On the other hand, Egwene and Perrin were given a ride to the White Tower by a group of kind-hearted tribesmen. These people lived by the philosophy of the leaf cycle. They sworn to give up violence and did not even carry weapons. Even when attacked, they could only run or endure. As for Rand, after a long day of traveling, they were finally able to stay in a family's warehouse. However, while cleaning, morning, Mad suddenly had a severe stomachache. He vomited a strange black liquid. Unexpectedly, it went into Mad's mouth in less than 3 seconds. Inside, Rand was telling Tom about Mad's strange behavior. Tom also guessed that he had tried to use the energy of oneness. If that was the case, Mad would likely mutate and go insane soon. However, Rand still chose to believe in Mad because he had never seen Mad use the energy of the oneness. That night, Rand dreamed of the Dark Lord controlling Mad and Perrin. Then Egwene was also taken away by him. Rand suddenly woke up and saw Tom beside him. At this time, a scream rang out. The two went out to check. They saw that no one was alive, and Mad was standing in the middle of the house holding a golden knife. Suddenly, a dark minion appeared. Seeing that, Tom stayed to hold him back, then told the two to leave quickly. The next morning, the Aes Sedai suddenly felt something. Outside, everyone quickly prepared to fight when they discovered Loghain's army had come here. They kept shooting arrows, but were stopped by an Aes Sedai. Then, they turned the arrows towards Loghain's army. Then the Aes Sedai and the defenders retreated and turned back to attack. At this time, in the cave, Loghain also unleashed his power. He sent Liandrin and Kara flying. After that, Loghain broke the cage to escape. At this moment, Moirin also arrived. She knew that she could not fight Loghain. She stood there talking to buy time for everyone to arrive. When the other two Aes Sedai woke up, the three of them immediately began to cast spells to seal Loghain. However, they still could not control Loghain's power. Seeing this, Kara sacrificed herself to block his fatal blow. Because of a special connection, everyone outside felt that Kara had sacrificed herself. Seeing this, everyone quickly went to support, leaving only another Aes Sedai to fight. After that, she launched a fatal attack and defeated many of the opponent's soldiers. When they entered the cave, Kara's retainer were extremely angry when he saw that she was dead, and immediately rushed towards Loghain. But who would have thought that this would help him break the seal? A huge burst of energy was released, injuring everyone. Seeing this scene, Nynaeve was furious, erupting in anger. She became crazy. A super huge unified energy source radiated like a burning sun. It was so strong that all of everyone's wounds healed. Loghain was extremely surprised to witness this. Only then did he realize that he was not dragon. Nynaeve's power was 1,000 times greater than his. Taking that opportunity, everyone gathered all their power to immediately separate the unified energy source from Loghain's body. When the battle was completely over, a funeral was held to commemorate those who had sacrificed. After that, they put their sadness aside and continued on their journey. A month later, the journey seemed to be going very smoothly. They were almost at the White Tower. On the other hand, Rand and Mad were also continuing their journey. Rand was very worried about Mad. He saw that his friend seemed unwell. Not long after, the two finally saw the White Tower. Once inside the city, they quickly went to an inn to rest. Rand then went to a library to find a cure for Mad and met a freak named Loyal there. He seemed very gentle, friendly, and knowledgeable, so Rand asked Loyal to let him know if he saw his friends coming here. On the other hand, Egwene and Perrin were also about to reach the White Tower. However, before they could enter the city, they were stopped by the White Knights. The leader recognized Egwene and Perrin, so they demanded that the tribe hand them over. However, the tribe did not agree immediately. They formed a barrier to prevent the White Knights from approaching Egwene and Perrin, and even accepted the beating without fighting back. Realizing that the situation was not good, Aram immediately led them away. Very quickly, the White Knights chased after them on horseback and defeated Aram. Then, the White Knights surrounded Egwene and Perrin. Afterwards, the White Knights brought the two back to his territory. They tied them up and threatened Egwene, forcing her to admit that she was an Aes Sedai. Although she refused, the leader used Perrin to threaten Egwene. Witnessing this scene, Egwene was extremely angry. She used her power to create a flame to attack the leader, but this power was too weak, not enough to cause damage to him. While he was not paying attention, Egwene used this power to untie Perrin. As if empowered, Perrin completely lost control. He howled like a wild wolf. Seizing the opportunity, Egwene rushed forward to finish off the leader. Suddenly, a pack of wild wolves appeared outside, and they attacked the White Knights. As expected, they did not attack Egwene and Perrin. After that, the two of them quickly ran towards the White Tower. On the other hand, Nynaeve had reached the White Tower. She had always been worried about her younger siblings. Therefore, Nynaeve decided to go find them inside the castle herself. Luckily, she met Loyal, and he led Nynaeve come to meet Rand. This made them very happy. However, at this time Mad was very weak and almost unconscious. However, they still did not want to ask for Moirain's help. Rand feared that, like Loghain, Mad would most likely have his power drained by the Aes Sedai. With no other choice, Nynaeve decided to cure Mad herself. On the other side, Siwan, a supreme leader of the Aes Sedai, gathered everyone to judge Loghain. He would be imprisoned until he went mad from losing his power. That would be the greatest punishment for Loghain. However, Siwan discovered that Moirain was hiding someone with enormous energy, which was Nynaeve. However, Moirain still hid the fact that she went to find Dragon. Siwan decided to give Moirain her punishment tomorrow. After that, Moirain was also informed of Rand's location. She immediately came here. Seeing this, Rand was afraid that they would do something to Mad, so he tried to resist. But very quickly, he was subdued by the retainer. Moirain immediately discovered the golden knife on Mad, which had made him what he was now. Moirain then used magic to purify the impure one-dimensional energy from Mad and returned the golden knife to its original place. Finally, Mad returned to normal. unstoppable, although his power had been taken away. But Moirin thought that Mad still had the ability to be a dragon, because after a long time, he had not been controlled by the darkness. If Mad were a normal person, he would have died long ago. Later, Moirin also received news from Egwene and Perrin. She immediately set out to meet them. Egwene said that Perrin's ability might be related to wolves. Perrin's eyes could turn golden. The wolves always obeyed and protected him. Hearing this, Moirin immediately told Egwene to keep it a secret, because that would keep Perrin safe. In the evening, the retainer went to Moirin's place. He found that she had turned off the link between the two. Moirin explained that she wanted to give the retainer some private time, but in fact, Moirin wanted to hide the fact that she used the portal to Siwon's place. In fact, the two were lovers. The events that happened in today's meeting were all arranged by Siwon. Moirin's search for dragon for the past 20 years was also Siwon's secret order. However, Moirin still did not know which of the 5 people was dragon, because 4 of them were the right age according to the prophecy. Although Nynaeve was beyond the prophecy age, she had terrible power. Hearing that, Siwon immediately said to bring all 5 people to destroy the Dark Lord. After that, she also reminded Moirin that dragon might also become a servant of the dark forces. Moirin guaranteed to destroy them if anyone sided with them. After that, the two of them also reluctantly said goodbye to each other, because they knew that anyone who was in the battle between dragon and darkness would die. And of course, Moirin was also mentally prepared. To facilitate the action, the next morning, Siwon punished Moirin to be expelled from the White Tower. After that, Moirin and everyone gathered at the ancient gate. Finally, the 5 people were reunited after so long apart. Loyal was also invited to come along because he was a person with profound knowledge. This ancient gate could teleport to any place. Each step there could be 100 miles in the real world. This was the fastest way to the Eye of the World, where the dark forces were sealed by dragon. Taking advantage of the weakened state of the Dark Lord, Moirin urged everyone to quickly set off. Their mission was to destroy the Dark Lord. If the mission failed, humanity would be destroyed. The world would be plunged into darkness and fire. Only when a new era came would everything be revived from the ashes. However, Moirin hid the fact that those who were not dragon would die. Everyone gradually understood the problem and decided to agree to act. Moirin began to open the space gate. Everyone entered one by one. Surprisingly, Mad still chose to stay. He ignored everyone's urging. With no other choice, the group continued their journey. Inside the pitch-black space, choosing to enter meant that none of them could return. If anyone tried to use the power of oneness, they would be affected by something called the Black Wind. It had the ability to manipulate souls, driving them insane. After a while, they discovered that the guiding stone had been destroyed. Although Loyal could still try to read the information on the stone, it would probably take a day, so everyone took a break. Suddenly, Egwene heard a strange sound. She immediately woke Rand up. Suddenly, a monster appeared, and Oneness power source sent it flying down. They realized that the monsters had used this passage to secretly attack the village near the Aranel River. However, it seemed that someone had just emitted an Oneness power source, so the group had to run away because of the approaching Black Wind. But when they got close to the exit, everyone began to hear the temptations of the Black Wind. Seeing this, Nynaeve tried to use her power to create a shield to protect everyone. Moirin also took the opportunity to open a space gate. They finally escaped outside. This place was the Fortress of Light, a day's walk from the Eye of the World. Moirin then led them into the castle to meet Lord Ajilmar. They had been here for thousands of years to supervise the Dark Lord and his army. The legends said that this family had a very powerful magic. It could destroy any army that attacked. That's why they were able to stand here for thousands of years. Moirin reported that the space gate had been discovered and used by the monsters. Hearing this, Lord Ajilmar sent people to increase surveillance. Later, on their way, Perrin unexpectedly met a man who used to sell goods on the Aranel River. However, Nynaeve just thought that he had seen wrongly, because he was destroyed when the monsters attacked their village. When they arrived at the tavern, Moirin asked a fortune teller to guess which of them was dragon. Even though she was an experienced person, she was helpless. It seemed that the 4 of them had some kind of connection with each other. Feeling guilty and not wanting everyone to face danger, Egwene revealed the whole truth that night. If anyone who went to the Eyes of the World other than dragon would die. Moirin then asked everyone to think about whether they should give up or not. However, the reason they were here now was to protect their families, their homeland, and their loved ones. So they decided not to give up, but to continue their journey, even if they all had to die. Everyone began to show their hearts before facing death. Nynaeve admitted that she liked the retainer after so many days of close contact. Rand and Egwene also enjoyed their last time together. That night, Rand suddenly realized that something was wrong. When facing the Dark Minion, Rand was able to break down the super strong door. When he encountered the monster in the passage, he was the one who used the power of oneness. And the Black Wind also revealed that Rand was dragon. Back 20 years ago, a woman was running away while being chased by soldiers. She defeated all of them, but suddenly a soldier appeared, with a sword shaped like a crane. It was Rand's current adoptive father. Suddenly the woman showed signs of being ready to give birth. Seeing that, he immediately helped. A boy was born. That boy was Rand. Back in the present, Rand revealed to Moirin that he was was Dragon. The two of them immediately went to the Eye of the World without telling anyone. 3,000 years ago, the world was extremely prosperous. The person who was called Dragon at that time, he advised the leader of Aes Sedai to go with him to destroy the Dark Lord. However, the leader did not agree, because if he failed, the whole world would be destroyed, so she firmly refused. However, Dragon and the male Aes Sedai still decided to fight on their own, and after losing, human civilization also went downhill from here. At this time, Moirin and Rand were crossing the ruined forest to reach the Eye of the World. This place was the corruption spread by the poison of the night. Anyone who entered here would die. After a long journey, Rand and Moirin decided to rest for a while. Suddenly, the Dark Lord appeared behind Moirin to finish her off. Rand shot an arrow at his face, but it had no effect. Rand realized that this was just an illusion. He quickly got out of the dream. On this side, the retainer felt something uneasy in his heart. He decided to go forward to support the two. On this side, Rand was thinking about how he could destroy the darkness, while he could not unleash his power himself. Hearing that, Moirin immediately pulled out an ancient statue that contained the unified power of thousands of people. When he poured his power into it, Rand would become 100 times stronger. He would use it to send the Dark Lord back to his hell. After that, the two saw a group of giant monsters approaching the wall. On the other side, Lord Agelmar also heard the news. He quickly led his troops to stop them. Nynaeve and Egwene also helped them perform ancient magic if the wall collapsed. Finally, Moirin and Rand reached the Eye of the World. Here, Rand saw the remains of the war between Dragon and the Dark Lord. But when Rand slowly touched the eye, he suddenly found himself back at the house on the Arenelle River. Rand and Egwene were taking care of their child. At this time, Moirin was trying to wake Rand up, when suddenly, the Dark Lord appeared. Seeing this, Moirin immediately tried to attack him, but in the end, the Dark Lord sealed her power. Now Moirin was no different from a normal person, but she was quick to threaten. As long as Rand sided with the darkness, he would be destroyed immediately. On the other hand, Perrin was helping the soldiers get a secret weapon in case they lost to the Dark Army. Outside, the henchman and his army had already attacked the city. Unable to resist this power, Lord Agelmar was quickly destroyed. The monsters quickly poured over the wall. Seeing this, Egwene's group began to gather everyone's unified power to cast ancient magic. A huge amount of energy surged into the sky. Then, thunder gathered and rained down. It swept away everything near them. This magic was so powerful that it directly drained everyone's energy. Even Nynaeve and Egwene were about to break down. On the other hand, Rand was still in the virtual world created by the Dark Lord. He tempted to pull Rand to his side. Fascinated by the words of darkness, the dark energy within Rand quickly began to appear. When the Dark Lord was about to make his decision, Rand seemed to awaken. He began to absorb energy from the ancient statue, then shot out a huge amount of energy, directly sending the Dark Lord to hell. On the other side, Nynaeve's group refused to give up. If this continued, their energy would be drained until death. Seeing this, Nynaeve sacrificed herself, using the energy of oneness to replace Egwene. Thanks to that, Egwene escaped death. The rest of the people were also drained of energy. At the same time, the peddler and two of the Dark Lord's henchmen defeated the soldiers and everyone else to steal the secret weapon. It turned out that he was a minion of the Dark Lord from the beginning and came to the Arenelle River just to spy on them. After that, he spared Perrin's life, because he and his 4 friends would have a different fate. In the future, they would be the center of the Wheel of Time. After saying that, he left directly. Under the castle, Egwene was grieving over Nynaeve's death. Suddenly, a source of energy emitted from her body, reviving Nynaeve. On the other hand, Mad had returned to the ruined city to become a minion of the Dark Lord. As for Rand, after destroying the Dark Lord, he decided to leave alone. Because Rand had used the energy of oneness, he might not be able to control himself in the future. After that, he asked Moirin to inform everyone that he was dead. Realizing that there was no better way, Moirin agreed. When the retainer arrived, she also did as he told her. However, the two discovered that even though they had pushed him back to hell, the Heartstone, which no one could scratch, had suddenly broken. This meant that this was not the final battle. It seemed that this was just the beginning. At the same time, on the west coast, a series of warships were out at sea. Then many Aes Sedai there created a tsunami hundreds of meters high that hit the mainland. So that's the end of part 1. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.